story. Let's move to Monday Night Football, where the Bears dominated the Redskins last night with the defense running roughshod over the Washington Redskins with 5 turnovers. Even Mitchell Trubisky got in on the fun, throwing for 3 touchdowns after a slow start to the year, but once again left people doubting him. Trubisky continues to be compared to a couple of guys drafted after him, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. And unfortunately for Mitch, he's going to have a hard time living up with Mahomes and Watson eclipsing him in records in passing yards and in touchdowns.
It's a big hill.
That's Runyon.
That's a lot of critics to silence is what that is. And so, did Mitchell Trubisky silence his critics last night?
No. Silence? No. They're still out there whispering something. And since you ran out of line items there, because you could have put Pro Football Focus, you know, my favorite thing. Shout out to Jalen Ramsey. What's up, boy? 36 a month, 38 qualified quarterbacks. Hey. Wow. And you're the #2 overall pick, and we had to give up picks to move up in the draft to get you. Hi. That said, I like Mitch Trubisky. I'll tell you what I like about him. He can make the throws, and he's mobile. And they're asking something different of him in this system this year than they even did last year, which is interesting. Aaron Rodgers is going through the same thing in his new system with Matt LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers' numbers are down until you play against them and you realize, oh, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. This situation with him, because of the defense in Green Bay, they're asking him to do something different. Last night, we saw 80% in completion percentage. Last night, we saw them win a ball game, him throw 3 touchdowns. So all that said, the body of work is not adding up to where he conveniently should fit as a #2 overall pick. But I'm still a staunch supporter of Mitch Trubisky, especially with the adjustments they made this year in this offense.
Yeah, and I like what I saw from him this game, but we also got to look at the facts. That defense played lights out. They got 5 turnovers. They scored 21 points off of turnovers. So my question is, what happens when that defense doesn't get any turnovers, right? When they play against a New England Patriots team or even a Green Bay Packers team where they can protect the football, right, and not allow that defense to do what they did last night against Case Keenum, which I felt bad for Case Keenum last night. Boy, he was running for his life. But again, when it falls on Mitchell Trubisky's shoulders and he has to go out and win that football game for him, that's where I have questions, because I still saw some overthrows. I saw some good Trubisky. I saw some bad Trubisky. And so we need consistency. We can't have these kinds of games every 3 or 4 games, right? Because at the end of the day, you are the leader of this team. You are the quarterback. And at some point, we're going to have to rely on you to win us some football games.
You have to know how you're built as a football team. And I will tell you, I did the Week 2 game in Denver with that defense. And I'll just be straight up with you guys. As a former offensive lineman in me, as I studied their defense, I got diarrhea. Like, I kid you not, I had to rush to the restroom. They are that good at all 3 levels. I'm telling you, they get, whether it's Mack or whether it's Hicks or whether it's Roy Robertson Harris or whether it's Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson was compared by Chuck Pagano to me as a young, like a young Reed in Baltimore. That's like, they are that good on defense. So understand that. Rely on that aspect of your football team. I looked at them and I thought, this reminds me of the early 90s when I played in Washington, when the Eagles had Mike Pitts and Jerome Brown and Reggie White and Clyde Simmons and
Seth Joyner,
Byron Evans and Seth Joyner and Eric Allen. Like, that's how good this defense is. They are legit. And Mitch Trubisky is not going to win you games out of the pocket. That's not what he's going to do. But when they run the ball, they flag all that, you know, all that zone read stuff, you know, in the RPO game. And when they get him out of the pocket, watch him throw these balls out of the pocket. When he moves out of the pocket, this guy is as accurate and as good as anybody. In the pocket, that's where he struggles a little bit. So you have to design the offense for him. Is he going to shut up his critics? No, because if he gets in one of those games where he's got to go out and win it, you know, that's a big question mark. And do I think he can do that? Probably not at this stage in his career.
You know what? Reggie, I'm going to tee you up here. He's who we thought Daniel Jones was. A guy that was drafted a bit high, and the guys behind him. And so, yeah, there's no chance of him silencing his critics, because if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I'm always going to sit there and say, If you put Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes with this defense, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
And so it's going to be impossible for him to silence his critics. But I agree with Stink. I was watching that game last night, and I always refer to the perfect storm defense the Baltimore Ravens put together with Ray Lewis in 2000. And I started asking myself, like, I wonder if Khalil Mack can be that guy, that like what Ray Lewis was and that whole defensive personnel they got. Can they just overwhelm you with defense and make it so Mitchell Trubisky just runs downhill most of the season? And if they can do that, Mitchell Trubisky might not have to silence his critics to have a lot of success.
Well, that's like the Chicago Bears team that we played against in 06 that beat us, right? When they had Rex Grossman at quarterback and Brian Urlacher at linebacker. That defense, every time they got a turnover, it was a touchdown, right? They were laterally passes back to each other. But that defense carried them into the Super Bowl, right? Devin Hester was returning kicks.
Wow.
Returned the opening kick of the Super Bowl for a touchdown. And so this formula has been proven to work. It's just not often, right? It's not often that we see a defense have to carry a team all the way into the Super Bowl. So this defense is good. They're lights out. And I've had the unfortunate pleasure of playing against a defense kind of like this before. And so maybe it can work, right? Maybe this formula does work out for them because I agree with you. I don't know if we can depend on Trubisky to win us a game with his arm in the pocket.
Here's what you're going to have to depend on, and this is interesting. You're going to have to depend on that defense continuing to create turnovers. They led the league last year with 36. You know what the last team to lead the league was in turnovers, creating turnovers, and then the next year beat that number of turnovers? So the last team to do that. So they had 36 last year. The last team to lead the league in turnovers and then beat that number they had the previous year. 1973 Steelers.
Oh my goodness.
That's how rare that is. Rarefied air.
Let me ask you this because you covered one of their games, had some interaction with Matt Nagy. The concern I would have, Matt Nagy is an offensive coach. He's part of the decision-making, I believe, that went up and got Trubisky, right? And so will his ego get involved in terms of, I got to make this offense go. I got to make this quarterback go. I'm an offensive-minded coach. This is my quarterback. I want to do what McVay did. Will his ego get involved?
No, I think Matt is very, he understands that, you know, Mitch played, what, 13 games in college, that there's a learning curve and everybody's on a different learning curve when they get to this league. Some guys that came out of small schools and didn't do anything, all of a sudden jump into the NFL and they're like, oh yeah, this makes sense to me. And some guys who played in big schools who were all everything get into this league and go, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, right? So he understands that there's a process here and he's okay with that process. You know, he told me that the first game against Green Bay, the Thursday night opener, was the longest drive home he's ever had because he didn't put his team in a position to win. He called 4 running plays in the second half. Basically said, hey, Mitch, it's on you. And he's like, well, now, like, you got to give me a break because some of those were RPOs. And I said, hey, Matt, tell me the last time that you called an RPO and the quarterback had the option to throw it and he chose not to. Don't give me that. I had more of them called. You got to call them, right?
Call to run.
Right, but he understands that there's a process here. And he's one of those young coaches that I look at and go, Matt Nagy is sharp. He understands what his football team is, and he understands he needs to do a great job of calling plays and putting his quarterback in a position to have success.
Look, I just want to sum it all up. He's a mixed bag of nuts. Let's just be real.
As long as they take the Brazil nuts, those are the dirt clod nuts, man.
Nasty ones.
Right. They don't even have no flavor. I don't know. Brazil nuts, I'm done.
The day after you have a 116 quarterback rating is not the day we should be doing this. And that's what Mitch Trubisky had last night. But at the same time, only 5 quarterbacks this year have 3 starts and 3 or fewer passing touchdowns, and him, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Joe Flacco. Not the company you want to keep. So you can ride the #1 defense. Let's see how long it goes.
Coming up, Jim Harbaugh is looking for answers after another ugly loss. But did Urban Meyer actually just explain why the Michigan coach may never find them? That's